What up, what up, what up, peoples? How you guys doing? Happy Sabbath for those Sabbath keepers and happy Saturday for those who are not.
Sabbath keepers, 7 Day Adventists. We just happy to have all of you here and watching. We are live and direct, and we're a little bit earlier than we normally are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so it is what it is. Do you like what's going on over here?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix this headband. Like,
It's not a mirror.
I feel like it is a mirror, but tell us, where are you guys? Well, who's watching? Go ahead. You know how we like to shout out our viewers, the people that are with us. I feel like calling you guys family at this time, right? At this point, because you know already that we're here talking about whatever, and you guys are just. It's great. It's great.
Yo, what's going on? Arlene is always.
What up, Carlene? Let's turn this up. I can't even hear this.
Yo, Horain Henry. Yo, Horain, what's up, man?
What up, Horain?
Yo, we've been able to catch you on the midnight stuff with my boy Kirk Nugent. Whoa, that is super loud.
I know. I like loud though.
All right.
Fee, what up, Fee?
Fee, what time is it in the UK? It's gotta be. They're like 6 hours ahead. It's evening for her. 7:22, I think, or 6:22.
Yeah.
Eddie.
What up?
Eddie. Woody. Call him Woody.
What up, Woody?
June. All the way from Florida. Yep, that's
girl.
right. That's right. 1922. They go by the 24-hour clocks.
It's so early. It's not the Sabbath anymore, but it's definitely so early.
For her.
Right.
Miss my folks over in the UK. We're going to come back. We're going to come back live and direct. We're going to bring the show to the UK. That'll be fresh, right?
Yeah, that'll actually be super cool.
Yeah, that'll be dope.
And then we can have Fee with us.
And then we can have tea and crumpets.
Horns.
You know
okay. I don't think when we've been there that we ever had crumpets.
I don't even know what a crumpet is. Is it a muffin?
It's a pastry. I don't even know what it looks like.
It sounds like a muffin.
It does?
It sounds like a muffin to me. What is a crumpet? Please tell us in the comment section. Yo, we miss you too, Junie.
Miss you, June.
Texas ain't the same without you, family.
For real.
Miss you.
For real, yo.
Right here.
Ace Boom Coon right there. But yeah, she's like, no, it's spongy texture.
It's a spongy. Ooh. Is it a spongy muffin?
Is it good? I'm gonna Google it right now. What is it called?
Crumpet.
CRUMPETT or PET?
PET. What is a? Oh, it looks like an English. It's an English muffin.
She said it's spongy though.
That looks like an English muffin.
It does, but it looks better than an English muffin.
Don L. live from New York.
What up, Don?
She says it's good.
Kind of like a muffin.
It's kind of like a muffin.
Okay. Yeah,
It looks like an English muffin.
It does, but it's spongy. English muffins aren't spongy.
Thomas English muffins are spongy. That's what they are. When you cut it in half, it looks like a sponge where the butter gets into all the nooks and crannies.
Does it feel spongy? No. It tastes like bread, dry bread.
Well,
that's what
it's an American version of an English crumpet. But Thomas is an English name,
Okay.
It's Thomas's English muffins.
Whatever
Thomas English muffin. That's what it's called. Thomas English muffin. But they had to call it muffin for us in America because we wouldn't buy it if it's called crumpet. So they couldn't call it Thomas English crumpet. Thank you, Fee. As always, I be dropping bars, yo.
Anyway, how? I'm not starting early. Like, what is he talking about right now, though, Arlene? Like, I really don't know what he's talking about.
Because I'm on.
It is what it is.
Because I'm on another planet.
It is what it is. How was your week, Jamie?
My week was pretty good. It was nothing eventful, monumental. It was straight. I'm alive, so that's always good.
Amen. Being alive is always great.
Yeah, and I feel I always feel like 2021 has begun. Trump is no longer in the office, even though we're dealing with Trumpism, but he ain't there. So,
Yeah.
and we ain't seen his face on the news. We don't have to worry about, waking up, seeing what he tweeted. It's like he's like disappeared. He's gone to his golf resort in Florida, and Republicans are still trying to go out there and kiss up to him. But it feels good to watch CNN and not see his face.
Yeah.
Or to not hear about him.
Yeah,
Like that
I
feels
agree.
just like zen for me right now.
I agree. My anxiety is definitely uh, down because not having to think about, oh my gosh, what is he saying? What is he doing?
Yeah.
How does this impact me and my family and others?
Yeah. It's like, oh, did he say that?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And then you really feel like I don't know. I don't think there's anything else that he could have done that you'd be like, are you serious? Like, is this real life? Is this something that's happening? But thank God we don't have to. It seems like, when President Biden speaks, it's almost like this calming, right? It's almost like this reassurance of knowing, okay, yes, we had 4 ugly years, but it looks like there is better insight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Biden's presidency is almost like the granddad that America needed, right?
It's true.
It's like we just needed like that grandfather that says, I know it's crazy, but just I'm gonna fix things and don't worry, you'll be all right. We're gonna make this through or whatever. But yeah, man, I don't know. How about you guys? How do you feel about 2021 and not having to see Donald Trump's face? Do you miss him or are you glad that he's gone? Yes, Lovener, you're absolutely right. There's an adult here now. I think that captures it so eloquently. There's an adult in the White House.
Yeah.
And he surrounded himself with adults.
Yes, professionals, people who are well versed in their whatever it is that they're doing. Like, you're not picking your child or your son or your daughter to oversee things that they've never done, and it's like, at least there's a plan, right? I feel like there's a plan, especially when conquering this coronavirus, right? Even how the vaccinations, when that man was in office, and how there was no plan at all, right? There's shortages everywhere. There are not enough vaccinations. And especially for our seniors, there are people waiting online, long lines for hours. And then when they do get to the front, they're talking about it's the vaccinations have run out. So it's just really embarrassing, honestly. But now it just seems as though there's a rollout, there's a plan of trying to get as many people vaccinated as possible. So
it just seems like, and I think with everybody, Junie said it too, there's grown-ups in the White House. I just feel like there's logic and there's sense to it. And so even like, with the problems that may arise, like what you mentioned about people not being able to get the vaccine, at least there's a response to it that's like, you may not agree with it, but there's a logical, or the response seems like it's an intelligent one. Hey, we're trying to figure out, we're making corrections.
Exactly.
Like when Trump was doing, it's almost like, yo, this circus, man.
Yeah, Phoenix asked a really good question. Are you Black Americans for vaccines?
Oh, that's a great question, Phoebe, because history has not been on our side when it comes to vaccines or getting, whatever it is from the government and just what has been done. But I'm not against the vaccine. I'm actually for it. I think that it will be helpful. But I think we should tread with caution with any kind of vaccine. What are the side effects, or things of that nature? But I'm not against it. What we do know that we do see happening in America is that the people who need the vaccines the most are not getting it. So, like, the CNN was reporting blacks who have been hit the hardest by COVID. The vaccinations have been slim to none. I think it's like 14% to 40% in white neighborhoods who have access to the vaccine. So that's like another systematic issue that we have going on in America, which is crazy, right? Because here you have blacks that want the vaccine, but they can't get it.
Right, exactly.
It's like we're not even denying it. We're like, we can't just get access.
And what's crazy is that I think those Black underserved communities have been hit the hardest, and you would think the priority would be those areas that were hit the hardest. But then I know that there are, some Black people who don't trust the system. They don't trust the healthcare system. And so they are like anti taking the vaccines, which is unfortunately, but it makes sense, right? The history and all that stuff. But for me, I definitely, as soon as we are able to, I'm taking that vaccine. I'm not a person who likes vaccines at all. Like, I never take the flu vaccine because I'm just like, you know what? I just don't like the thought of, I don't know, I just don't like the thought of something in my system that's not natural. But this coronavirus is on a next level. I'm sure when the flu, when that came about, I'm sure I would have felt the same way. But coronavirus, living in with it is like living with the idea of what it can do. I'm just like, yo, sign me up. If I could take a vaccine right now, I could.
Yeah.
I mean, I would rather, but yeah.
Yeah, and especially for where you work, as a teacher, you
Exactly.
definitely want to be protected because
Exactly.
you have so many children in your class. I'd love to know what is the response of those that are from the UK. So we see Fee Weeks is on here. Donna Palmer says that she was watching a program here in the UK with 3K people watching on YouTube this afternoon, and I saw some crazy comments. I can only imagine what those comments are. Jelani Henry wants to know what is the relationship between the vaccine and the Daniel revelation, in your opinion, that is.
I'll leave that to the pastor.
Yeah, I don't see any relation to it in regards to something that is like, health. I would I'd probably equate it more to, how is it going to, if it's going to have adverse effects on your health later on. But I don't. I probably need to research it, but I don't see any,
Relationship correlation.
yeah,
per se.
correlation with it in regards to. I've never read anything in Revelation about like injections or.
I mean, I'm going to assume, Jelani, you're probably talking about like prophecy. Are you talking about the prophecy part of Daniel or like the health part of Daniel? Because I know that, right? Because isn't like.
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna
Tell
I
us,
need to,
Jelani.
yeah.
We're interested. And congratulations, by the way, Dad. Whoop, you get the horn.
Yeah,
son.
horns. And shout out to Michelle Guilford. The men took her first dose on Tuesday. Oh, let me just say this about Michelle. Michelle is the homie. Michelle, when I was doing my D-Min at United Theological Seminary, we were in the same cohort together. That's a Gardner Taylor scholar right there.
That's
One of
what's
the
up.
baddest sisters on the planet Earth. Much love to Michelle. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, she got her first dose. She's feeling
You
good.
got your first dose on
Yeah.
Tuesday. Yeah, people that said, most of the people that I know said that when they took the first dose, there was probably some sensitivity or some, it was very tender in that area, the injection site. But other than that, I think they said when you get your second dose, that's where you may have fever or chills or for probably about 2 to 3 days, and then it goes away. Honestly, when you think about when you weigh your options in terms of, God forbid you do catch it, I'm sure it's far worse than that, right? And so, I mean, it's a personal thing by all means. Like, like for me, if you feel like you don't need it or you want to take it, don't take it, but just don't knock people that do want to take it.
Yeah,
and vice versa.
Yeah, and I don't see it any different. If we're going to like spiritualize this and make it prophetic, then we have to lump all other injections in there too, right?
That's true.
So you have to also lump going to the doctor and the doctor giving you or getting a vaccine for
Any
your children
medication,
or
though,
any medication, right? So I just see it as more of maybe you want to look at what are the adverse effects on it health wise, personally. But as far as anything prophetic, I'm probably not gifted in that area. Somebody else might be, and they'll be able to open my eyes to it. But yes,
because I definitely think that the coronavirus, I think it's just like the swine flu, any of those illnesses, those viruses that that affected our world, our society, the way that it's affecting. And I'm sure the response was the same in terms of getting the vaccinations, but it goes for any medicine, right? And I think because it's in its early stage, they really don't know what the long-term effects of if you were to get the vaccine is right now. So
Yeah.
it's like a toss-up.
But I'll also say this, that if we consider, spiritualizing it and thinking about not just ourselves, but our neighbors, right? Because the vaccine will also have an impact on other people. So, for example, the people that don't wear masks, I consider them to be some of the most selfish people. Just how it represents itself, because you're basically saying, I'm not wearing a mask because I don't want to, put a what's the word? I don't want to infringe on my freedoms, right? But then you also think about the purpose of the mask is not just to protect yourself; it's to protect others as well,
Right.
right? And so if you think about the vaccine, in the sense where like, yo, I'm gonna take this vaccine because I'm not only protecting myself, but I'm protecting my wife, my kids, my children. I'm protecting those that I come encounter with from the spread of this disease that just in America, I don't even know what the numbers are in the UK, have taken over 400,000 lives. That's 400,000 individuals who were walking this earth, have died, which may have been prematurely, which I also believe could have been prevented if we had a plan like the other countries. Because when you look at America, I think Brazil was the second highest on the list. We're about like 200 to almost 300,000 more deaths than them, and they don't have the infrastructure that I'm assuming America has. And you may say, oh, but their population is smaller. But yeah, but let's go back. The infrastructure that they have is not comparative to what we have here in the States.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so I look at it in that way. I look at how, in the best way, can I be a neighbor, which I believe is fulfilling my Christian duty.
I really, I'm not sure what Trevor. What up, Trevor?
Oh,
Trevor says Florida is capital of the freedom
right.
movement.
Yeah, the My Freedoms movement.
What is the
like,
freedoms movement? I don't know what that
My
is.
Freedom. He's saying, I
Oh,
want to wear my mask because of my freedoms. I ain't wearing no mask because I got to have my freedom.
oh, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just a little slow on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, in understanding that. But yeah, I definitely. I just. This entire thing is just messed up, right? It really is. Like, it's really messed up. Jamie and I were talking. I was just like, how does a third world country not have as many numbers as America?
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen?
It happens. So there's always going to be this debate about how much freedom is free. The debate is, can somebody be too free, right? When is too much freedom too much? When you look at other countries that don't have as much freedom as America does, so let's take China, which is a communist country, right? Their numbers in regards to coronavirus have drastically dipped lower because the government was like, nah, y'all ain't doing that no more. Shut it down. You don't do. If you do this, you get arrested. Whatever happens to you. In America, we just have autonomy to just do whatever we want. And so there's some people that are asking the question, like, is too much freedom too much for humans to handle? Do humans need to be controlled in such a way? But I would say this: I don't think too much freedom is too much freedom. I think what we've had for the last 4 years was um, maniacal, insane, whatever synonym you want to go with it, lackadaisical attitude towards this virus and towards medicine and towards science, which raised, which unearthed, a lot of people who thought that way were afraid to come out and say that. I think Trump is the embodiment of everything that's wrong with America.
Yeah.
And just basically inspired all of the things that were wrong with America to just come forth and just to be like, it's just crazy to me, to be like, there's a potential virus that is so deadly, and you're like, if I wear a mask, you're taking away my freedom. If Trump was wearing a mask and taking this seriously, all of his Trumpettes would have done the same thing as well.
And we probably would not have been as bad as we are today, I think.
Yeah.
Like, we were in the grocery store, what was it, like 2 Fridays ago, and we're shopping, and this white couple, I'm just going to say it out there because it is what it is. This white couple with their children are walking around without a mask. Like, there's no regard for the fact that you are not the only one in the grocery store. There are elderly people, there are probably people with underlying problems, and you have the audacity to walk around without a mask in a grocery store. Like, who do you think you are? So I went to go tell the clerk, the store clerk, I was like,
Snitch.
yeah, I'm a snitch. I don't care. Listen, so I was just like, yo, I was like, someone in the store is not wearing a mask. So I said there's some people over there that's not wearing a mask. You know what she's gonna tell me? She says you have to go to customer service and tell them tell them that. And I'm just like, but you work here. This is Texas. Like, right before coming into the store, it says you need to wear your mask. They walked in the store without a mask because they didn't have that thing, that covering, that face cover. They didn't have anything. So they walked into the store without a mask. And it's just like so selfish. And to ask Jamie, I was so disgusted. I was just like, I'm ready to go because it's just so selfish that I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to keep it holy.
Yeah. We're in a very interesting time in America. So Fee asks, how much freedom?
Wait,
How would you view that in relation to free will in Christ? Ooh, that's a good question, right?
How would you view that in relation to free will?
Yeah. So
come with it, Fee, with the questions. Mercy.
So I have the notion that um, when you accept Jesus Christ, you're waiving your rights to freedom, right? And you're waiving your right to do whatever you want to do because now you're within this covenant, right? I'm not going to use the word contract. You're in a covenant with God to say that I'm giving myself to you to obey what you want me to do. So, you know, yes, we're free in Christ, but we're free under his autonomy or his jurisdiction or his rights in the realms in regards to what we can and what we cannot do and what we should and should not do. And we trust that because we believe that he has our best intentions when he tells us what we cannot do. Right? So that's how I see freedom because you're basically saying when you get baptized or when you give your heart to Christ that I'm doing this because I want to serve you. Mm-hmm. Right? And if I'm serving you, that means that I'm going to do what you say. Mm-hmm. So you don't get baptized and give your heart to Christ and still do what you want to do. You don't have the freedom to do what you want to do anymore.
Right. You don't have the freedom because you know the consequences.
Right. So you do still have that freedom, but you choose not to exercise it. Right. You're waiving your rights.
Correct.
To be this way. So are you free? Yes. Are you free? No. If that makes any sense.
Right. Because you're free to make the choice. Right. You're free to make whatever choice it is that you want to make. Understanding with the notion that there are going to be consequences to those choices, whether good or bad. And so, yes, you do have the free will to choose, but it's as Jamie said, you're free, but you're not free, right? Because you want to live in not the confines. Confines sounds really, really like, I don't know, but because you want to live a life that God has said. If you live a life like this is the response. These are the consequences, right? Versus if you live a life like this, these are the consequences. So it's almost like you're free to choose, right? Whatever it is that you want to choose, but with the understanding of knowing that if I choose this way, that this is what I'm going to get.
Yeah. So it's like almost like our it's like our kids, right? Caitlin and Amber, they're free, but they're free under our jurisdiction. So they're free within our box that we made for them. So they're free to go this part of the house, go that part of the house, do this, do that. When we go out with them, they're free to walk around, but they're not free to walk outside of that circle or that sphere that we've given for them to do. When they get to a certain age, then they're free to say, I want to walk away from the circle that you have.
Correct.
And they can do whatever they want. So I think God has a circle that we all exist within that we abide by. And we're okay with it because we don't look at it as slavery. We look at it as something that we chose to do and chose to give up. Like, and my reason why I'm thinking like that is because I just read Jean-Jacques Rousseau, however you say his name, The Social Contract. And in that social contract, you know, he says, the opening is so crazy. He says, everywhere I look, I see men in chains, right? They're free, but I see men in chains. And basically, he's describing the same thing, that to live within in a society, there's a contract that you sign. And with that contract, you are basically saying, I'm willing to give up certain freedoms that I have because I want to exist within this society and how I relate to other people and how we can all function,
Right.
stuff like that. And so, but you know, Trump, and I'll get off of this because I know we want to go on something else. Trump and Trumpism broke that contract. They destroyed that contract, and Trump basically opened up the door and told them, you live however you want to live, regardless of what other people say, and anybody who doesn't agree with what you say, annihilate them, take them out. And that's how that QAnon theory, that crazy lady that's in Congress right now who was okay with liking comments about assassinating Pelosi and assassinating Barack Obama, they broke that contract. They don't want to live within this society that we create. They want to create their own world. So I'm like, hey, go ahead, create your own world. Just do it way out in the middle of nowhere. Take Trump with you, and we'll build a wall. We'll give you all the funding to build a wall to keep y'all in there. Live your life, enjoy. Let everybody else be normal.
Yeah, I like what Loviner said. She said, "You free, but you have bills, so you're not free." Exactly.
Facts.
Exactly. Those bills are definitely
student loans, man.
Yeah, those bills definitely are like chains
Yep.
for many of us, right? They kind of let us,
student loans.
They are chains. But yeah, I definitely think that.
Yes, Trev. Crazy men too. Crazy ladies too. There's a whole lot of them.
But it's just so interesting how, because of one man, right? They now have this, I think, the audacity to do say what they're saying, to do what it is that they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I know that it was always there, right? It's very evident. We knew that it was always there, but it just seems as though they were just waiting for someone like him to come into office to give them that I don't know, encouragement or whatever.
He inspired them. He tapped into their vulnerability. He tapped into their emotions, even though he is the polar opposite of who they are. Not only that, he is probably a contributor to, he's a benefactor of capitalism, which contributes to a permanent underclass, which many of his followers couldn't even had the wool over their eyes that they could not realize. I remember before, like, Trumpism, there was the Tea Party, and the Tea Party, and they were always about this whole forget about Wall Street, it's all about Main Street, and these rich people are taking our money and stuff like that, and then they go and they put a billionaire in as the president, right? But he basically tapped into their vulnerability. That Make America Great Again was code switch or code word for Make America White Again. White people you whites that are in middle America, farmers, out in nowhere, you have been pushed to the side because America is putting a black man with the name Barack Hussein Obama. Like, you ain't getting no black and African more than that. Right? He is your leader, and they're just like, that's right. Yeah. How did America get to the place where we put a black man in office? And then when when Hillary started running, they're just like, oh, absolutely not. We ain't never putting no woman up there.
So it's that white male.
Yeah,
type.
But I also say this, that in reverse to his inspiration of that group, that clan, that cult, it also inspired those that didn't vote and black people to get up, to get out and to vote, because we were motivated this election. We were motivated in Georgia, like, oh, heck nah, we ain't about to have 4 more years of this. And we stayed on them long lines. But I'm going to say, this is next 4 years or next 2 years, Republicans are strategizing, and they're going to make voting as difficult as possible. If you thought it was hard to vote this last election, it's about to get worse.
Yeah, especially in Georgia.
Especially in
right?
Georgia,
Because
all
it
of
seems
those
as though Georgia, the red state, has now turned blue.
blue. Yeah, Georgia, all those Arizona, all of those states that turned blue that were red before, they're gonna start making it hard for black people to vote. So you're gonna see less polling stations, more rules and regulations, because I think Republicans are right now, their party is so decimated and destroyed. They're in shambles. And I think they're worried about losing the next elections that are coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely, that's how it's looking. Trevor says that he picked on their anger and weaknesses. They see the rest of the country, especially minorities, achieve the American dream while they fall further and further behind.
Yeah, and which was a lie too, because nobody was taking their jobs. Nobody was, they were not falling behind. They've always had privilege on their side.
Still do.
And they still do, right? I mean, the Capitol riot was privilege, was the example of Trump, even after they did it, he said, I love you. It was like, oh, we don't want to have violence. We love you. Like, yo, who says that to a terrorist? I've never heard a leader say that to a terrorist. Like,
well, what's interesting, he didn't say that when Black Lives Matter.
No,
when
that's
we
right.
were doing our peaceful protests.
That's right.
He didn't say, I love you.
That's
no
right.
Writing, but I love you. He didn't
That's
say
right.
that.
That's right. When Black Lives Matter were protesting and that person drove their car and knocked down, the protesters and killed some, there were bad people on both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Ann says that make sure you all stay in tune with your city council because we have the power to counter legislation if we stay in touch with our leaders.
Absolutely. And run for office. Yo, if you got political science background and you live in a neighborhood and you don't like the way things look, yo, you can run for city council.
Yep, and I know it's not encouraged. I won't say it's discouraged, but it's not encouraged in our communities, right? It just seems as though that's their job. That's something they can do, not I can do. So for
you
sure.
can run. You can easily run for office. Like, it ain't hard to do. I've been around city council leaders, and I'm just like, that's it. Oh, I can do this.
Wow, he said that's enough now. I love you. Go home now. Listen, this. Yeah, thank you, and you're right. Don't sleep on the midterm elections either.
Don't sleep.
I don't think there's no sleeping for us, right? There is no sleeping or letting up because you already know what will happen when that.
Right, and that's like and thanks for bringing that up, Ann, because that's like a common theme that we think that, okay, oh look, Georgia flipped, oh, we got Biden in,
we're good,
then we just fall back and chill. No, your local leaders affect you more. Your governors, like, that's right now, yo, I want to be on a campaign. I would be glad to run against our Governor Abbott. I would run against that cat.
Good luck.
Yeah, if I can run against the governor, I'd do it right now. When his elections come up.
Yeah, but governor, good luck with that one.
Lieutenant General, all of these people that are in your state local legislators, those reps that you have, them people you need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure. What up, Leah?
Leah Burgess. Do we give Leah a horn?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though her daughter be like, yo, what's good with the horns? Yo, the horns are good. The horns wake us up.
She don't like the horns. But yeah, I definitely think that it's better, right? It just feels better. It just feels like there's a lot to stress about, right, in our lives, in our society. But now it just feels like it's a little bit of a calm. It's a little bit of it's less worrying about,
Yeah, it is. You have a plan. That's right. Like, you see, like, a certain plan. Now, I guess Trump had a plan. His plan was to reverse everything Obama did because he was so
obsessed,
jealous and obsessed. Like, Obama lived in his head more than he did in the White House, right? Like, he wakes up, goes to sleep. And what's even worse, too, is, like, Trump leaves the White House as a pariah. Like, people just want to be done with him. People are still in love with the Obamas. Like, the Obamas show up and people just start smiling. People get happy. Yeah, there's a lot of people that hate him, but in the public sphere, in the media, apart from Fox News, uh, you know, the Obamas are here. It's still good. He left a legacy, right? But this guy, oh my goodness, man, he has to be. He has to probably be the most disliked person on earth.
Who?
Trump.
I don't know.
I feel
70, excuse me, 70 million people
now.
voted. Over 70 million people
Now.
voted for him, Jamie.
Now, there's some people that probably did not like him, but they liked his policies, or they didn't like him and they liked his tax breaks for the rich. I just honestly believe if he had handled the pandemic better, he would have still been president. But here's something I would love to to talk about, right? How much money do you think Lil Wayne paid for that pardon? How much? I think, my summation, right? I think Lil Wayne sold his soul to Trump when he went to go visit him and endorsed his platinum package plan, like it's the ultimate plan for black people, and did that public endorsement. Lil Wayne probably negotiated a deal so that this case that's before me, I'm gonna need you to make this go away. That's what I think, and I think he probably had to slide his campaign some dollars as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Ain't no way I see Trump pardoning Lil Wayne just because he feels like Lil Wayne's a good person. Like I think Lil Wayne went in there and go. So now here's the question: is Lil Wayne smart, or is Lil Wayne, did he play the game?
I think he played the game. I mean, he's from the is he from the streets? I heard that he didn't he like grow up in like like he didn't grow up in the hood?
Well, no. He grew up in the hood. He grew up in Magnolia Projects. Anybody from New Orleans, they know Magnolia Projects is the hood.
Okay, maybe it's somebody else. I thought that was another rapper was.
Yeah, so he grew up in a rough neighborhood in Magnolia Projects. But, but Wayne has always been saying some pretty reckless stuff, too. Because I think at one time he was like, he don't see the importance of Black Lives Matter or some crazy stuff, some old wild stuff like that.
Jelani said, great points. I agree with. We have a responsibility to take care of our neighbors, followers of Christ. I was just making mention to the intentions of this wicked, weaponized, oh so real virus that has a dramatic shift in the way of the world that we think and wanted to see if you guys had perspective on the relationship to the last day events. Not so much the vaccine, but the entire event.
Yeah. So, Jelani, I'll say this, right? I'll say that.
Are we moving slow? I feel like we are. Are we like a little delayed, guys?
Maybe. A computer.
Okay.
Yes, this might be a good time to get a new computer. But I'd say this to Jelani. I'd say that I'm not going to just simply dismiss this as people not using this as an opportunity to do other things that relate to vaccine events, right? But I do know that we've never had a good relationship with vaccines or test trials when it comes to injections, and partly too because of what we've seen happen in places like Africa. Where they would test things out on Africans and then say, oh, this is not working. They got 3 arms. Let's not do this to bring this to America. So I'm not negating the fact that there can always be something that can capitalize on something to bring in something else. But as of this moment right now, I don't see a relationship of how. The only way I can see how this vaccine can be weaponized. My only eyes would lead me to believe in regards to pushing systematic inequality, which we're seeing right now, and that, hey, this vaccine is only going to certain zip codes and not getting to the zip codes that it needs to get to right now. And and I look at everything from Daniel to Revelation as justice versus injustice, and how that can push the envelope further to broaden that gap between the rich and the poor, and broaden that gap between access to and those that don't have access to certain things.
And I guess in terms of like prophetic that you were talking about, Jelani, in terms of like the relationship between the last day events. Like, I don't know, like lately we've been talking about last day events in terms of like, as Christians, like as Adventists, our view has always been like, we see certain things happening. We know that Christ is about to come. But I know that we were sharing you were actually sharing a different perspective in terms of how we should view um, Revelation and the second coming of Christ. Do you remember that conversation, Jamie?
Yeah. So we were talking about. I was saying that we always read Matthew 24, and when we read it, we just read like the wars. When Jesus says there will be wars and rumors of wars and pestilences and all that stuff, and he says these are the beginning of sorrows, and we stop right there. But in that same chapter, he read down a little bit more verses. He says, naked you didn't clothe me, hungry you didn't feed me, I was just sick, you didn't visit me. He goes through this whole litany, and then they go back and they say, when did we see you and not visit you? And then Jesus says, as much as you have done unto the least of these, you've also done this unto me. Then he says, depart from me, I know thee not. It's just interesting to me that we don't look at poverty, systematic inequality, injustice, and include that as last day events, right? When it's in the same chapter. And here's what's important about that verse is that you always save, as a preacher, as anybody who's a speaker, I always save my last point as my main point that I want you to leave with. Like, I'm never going to put the main point at the beginning. You always put your main point at the closing argument, right? The end of what you are saying. And those are like the last words that Jesus gives after he goes through that whole litany. He's like this. He's like, yo, this is a last day event. When you don't clothe the homeless, when you don't feed the hungry, when you don't visit the sick, when you throw people in prison. And it's interesting that Adventists do not focus on that part. Like, we don't have, we're okay with doing prison ministry, but we're not okay with doing the work to dismantle prisons, to tear down prisons, privatize prisons, right? And so it's just interesting to me that we don't include that as a last day event, which is in the whole chapter. It's not even like it's another chapter or it's somewhere else. The
It's
thing,
right there in the
the thing that
verse.
the litmus that Jesus tests us by, that he says, depart from me, I know thee not, is because as much as you have done this to the least of these, you've done it unto me. That's what he says. And so when I read it, I'm like, man, I need to start focusing on my neighbors because that's what's going to be. It's not going to be whether you worshiped on Sabbath or whether you how many how big your hat was or how you knew Daniel Revelation. Not saying that none of those things aren't important, but the question is, and the answer is, how much have you done for the least of these?
Wow.
Because when you did it for
That's
the
good.
least of these, you were doing it for me.
That's good.
You studying and memorizing all that stuff ain't doing nothing for me.
Wow.
It's not helping me. I am poor. Your Savior is poor. He was a victim of Roman systematic injustice.
Wow.
That's it. So it's like, I don't understand how social justice is not a fundamental belief of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Wow.
Social justice, Black Lives Matter, women in India, men in India,
Wow.
and the poverty, like those things are not fundamental beliefs that we are not pushing in this church. Like, it boggles me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it should be, right? It should be.
Yeah.
It should be a part of those tenets, of those, our 27 fundamental beliefs has nothing to do necessarily with that latter part of the very same verse that Jesus, when he was talking about, this is when you will know the end time shall be.
Yeah. When we up in churches and we stuffing ourselves with reading about Uriah Smith and Joseph Bates and all these other stuff, and we have no idea how to talk to our neighbors. That stuff does not translate. And that's why Adventists, when people become Adventists, we mostly get people who are sophisticated. Right?
Yeah, privilege.
It's
but would you say that? I'm sorry, I know I'm cutting you.
No,
but would you say that our religion is a really great way of us Black people seeing how privileged people are. I feel like us, we are pretty privileged, right? We are Adventists. We believe that we are the remnant church. We are set apart. No one is better than us. When we talk about Revelation, Daniel of the Revelation, we know it better than anyone else. When we talk about the Sabbath, we know it better than everyone else. I remember the first time when I heard about the Sabbath. What is it? Sabbath. They're not Adventists, but they worship on Saturday. What do they call it? 7 day.
You got 7 day Pentecostals,
Yeah.
all sorts of different.
And realizing that we are not the only ones with this message, right? And I feel like we cling on to this privilege, like we're better than everyone else because of this message. And instead of it kind of letting us see that our privilege is there to help others, we see our privilege as a means of, I don't know, feeling like we are going to be the first in line in heaven, or when Christ comes back. Like we Adventists, we gonna be right at the front.
Yeah, and and let's be honest, like if 100 homeless people showed up to church one day, man, members would go crazy, yo. They would be going nuts if they sat down in all the seats in the front, or prostitutes or whatever coming in. And
but what's interesting is that as Adventists, sometimes so you have to come to church looking this way. If you don't come to church this way, looking this way, you are considered not holy. You're considered a sinner. You're considered anything but. It's like we handcuff our desires, what we want church to be, or what we want people to look like with salvation, right? We say you cannot go to heaven unless you take off your jewelry. You cannot go to heaven unless you wear long skirts to your ankle, right? You cannot enter into heaven unless you have the thing of, you guys know, what is it called? The thing, but denying the something thereof.
Having the form of godliness.
We want the form of godliness, and we completely deny the what?
Power thereof.
The power thereof.
Yeah, it's a very elitist and very Eurocentric. And I've always said this, that when the Quakers and the Pilgrims came to the United States, they were fleeing from religious persecution, and it was for their right to worship, right? And then those things trickled into the onset of this church. Like the biggest factor in this church is the right to worship. Now, yes, that is something that we'll have to face in the impending days coming ahead. But I just feel like Black Adventists need to have their own theology, and their own message.
Yes.
Because what works in
Mercy,
white Adventist
you're about to make
churches...
me shout. Wait. I need a moment. I need a moment. I know. I need a moment. Wait. I just need a moment. Because I believe that our system is from a Eurocentric...
Yeah, it comes from a Eurocentric value system.
Yeah,
right?
like...
And I think
the way we worship, the way we talk to each other.
Right. What's holy from what's not holy. Black people arguing about drums in the sanctuary. Like, you are rhythmic people.
Yeah, like
where did that argument come from? You didn't bring up that argument. Europeans brought that argument because they're not rhythmic people like you.
Do you remember when we went to Africa? We went to Ghana.
Yeah.
And we were doing an evangelistic series, and Jamie was preaching for it. And we're in Africa. Like, this is the motherland, Africa. Here we are. Jamie's preaching the word, and it is complete silent from the beginning to end, right? It's time for us to leave, or even their song service before. It's like this, holy, holy.
They've been colonized and to think that their own culture is evil.
This is Africa.
And that's what happens in Black churches. Our own blackness has been called evil, and we've had to adapt to European styles. But nevertheless, I'm going back to why we need a theology that's handcrafted for Black Adventist churches, is because all of our churches are in impoverished communities.
Exactly.
And if we want to start reaching that community, then we have to start preaching the things that the community needs to hear. Telling people to worship on Sabbath does not help them pay their bills.
Nope.
Does not does not does not deal with living next to toxic plants that are destroying and deteriorating their health. Why their kids have asthma. You know, we have the highest rate of asthma cases and all these various things. So we have to also preach messages that address the needs of our people and what's happening in our community. White folks don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about gun violence. They don't have to worry about you know, their churches. They don't even have to worry. And I'll close on this, right? They don't have to worry about encouraging their members to vote. They have the freedom and the privilege not to vote. Why? Because no matter who's in office, the way America is set up, they will still have their privileges.
Yep.
They will still have their communities. Their taxes will
Yep.
stay the same. Their schools will stay the same.
Yep.
Black people can't afford not to vote because not only do we have to fight for this right, you know, to go to heaven, we got to fight just to live on earth because we live within a system that does not work for us, and we have to be able to express our voice. So when you hear black preachers telling their churches don't vote, that is not a black message. That is a Eurocentric European message that is coming into our churches because they told us that you are not supposed to get into politics.
Right.
Or they've told us what to preach and how to preach it and things like that. And black people need to lose this romance with this idea that if we preach another message that and it's contradictory to what the world church says, then it's okay if you're doing what God wants you to do. And if you're doing what needs to be done to serving your people, to serving the least of these. So
Yeah.
we have to ask ourselves, is or are what we are doing in our churches, do our financials reflect?
Right. Our budget.
Our budgets reflect, are we doing the most that we can do for the least of these?
But what's interesting is this. This is something I learned recently at the school that I was that I'm at. I think it was a school. Basically, we are so privileged, especially for those who live where you are. Your church is in an impoverished community, right? And most of us driving in to a church. That's a privilege. Not everyone has the privilege of getting in their car and driving to church. And just to think that we drive into church, that's why I think a lot of us, I'm including myself, a lot of us lose that sense of true community as it relates to connecting with the community because we're privileged. The fact that we can drive in, the fact that we can dress up and go and sit into a church, that's a privilege.
Yeah.
That a lot of the people that we're sitting, a lot of the people where the church is sitting around the church, they don't have that privilege. And here we are,
right.
Here we are, we have the audacity to drive in and not care necessarily about the community where the church is residing in. Like, we have no connection unless we are wanting to do an evangelistic series, right? We want those baptismal numbers to go up, or we want to have more people inside of our pews. We have no other connection outside of that. And it's, I don't know, like, I'm just sitting here thinking like,
But,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I want to say it's okay to have privilege. Like, I want black people to drive BMWs and fancy cars. If you can't afford it, I want you to live in the biggest house. But I don't want us to abuse our privilege and not use it to open up doors for other people.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Say that again, because I think that's it. You have just used words to hit exactly what needs to be said.
So it's like this mentality that we have, and I have it too, right? So it's like, you know, black people count success in regards to how far away they can move away from other black people.
It's true.
Like, that's success for us,
That's
right?
true. The suburbs.
Yeah, and that's okay. If you live wherever you want to live in the best house in the best town.
Right.
But don't forget about where you started, and don't forget about, and I like this, like, don't get to the place where you think that, oh, this is so great that you don't want other people to enjoy it as well. And I think that is the message of Jesus Christ. He left his home in heaven to come down to earth. He didn't forget that he was a citizen of heaven, but he was also making it in such a way that I want other people to enjoy what I enjoy in the kingdom. And this is how we do it. And what was Jesus teaching his disciples? How to be servants to other people. You know, how to open up the door, how to be the wedge in the door, how to be the door stopper to let other people inside. And I think and the Adventist church has become more about saving the institution than it has about the people.
Saving lives.
They're saving lives. And we've got to reverse that. God is not going to bless that. So my passion has always been in ministry is how in the world can I take this privilege of this platform and use this power so that other people can get inside? How can I stop spending money in the church? Or if I do spend money in the church, how is it going to benefit those in the community? Because this question plagues my mind all the time. If you were to ask your community, would they rather your church or a McDonald's?
Right.
And if they choose a McDonald's, close your doors. Because what they're basically saying is McDonald's is going to do more for me than your building.
You don't serve.
Your building.
Right.
McDonald's serve.
Right.
You can look at their sign. They say over 99 billion served. What your sign says? So, those are those questions, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And churches just create toxic people.
Yeah.
They just create people that fight each other. It just naturally does that. People don't leave churches. Most people don't leave churches because of doctrinal issues. They leave because they're not getting what they want. That's basically the crux of it. I ain't getting what I want, so I'm going to go somewhere else and I'm going to try to find it there.
Yeah.
They create inbreed. They create fighting. They create division. It is just, and the reason why is because we don't take time to have morally conscious conversations about how we can fix our communities and reach other people. We just constantly have conversations about ourselves, what we want, how we want it, what the pastor ain't preaching, what the first elder ain't doing. They need to do it this way. They need to do it that way. It just, you can't get away from it.
And
That's
a cycle.
what they do. Yeah.
And it's a cycle. It's like never ending, because I'm sure church, when we were growing up, when we were younger, it was the same issue. It was the same problems. It was the same things. Now that we're older and we're seeing it a little bit more, it's almost like, I know this, why are we here? Like, why are we talking about this? Like, why are we arguing over something that it doesn't even...
Right. And the Adventist system creates it. It just creates it, because the other problem, too, is we fight so much over the few dollars that we have. You send 10% of your tithe, and most people will pay a 10% tithe and a 1% offering, or they'll pay a 10% tithe and a 0% offering. So all of that money goes out. There's a small budget to work with, and every department or every person wants a piece of that money. And then that's where the conflict starts, right? Because the people within the marketplace, we'll call that within the church, they don't feel like it's equally distributed. And it's difficult to equally distribute it because it's but so much to go around. So that's what happens. It's like you can't get away. No matter what you do, churches are going to create that. And that's why Jesus said, destroy this temple. When Jesus said that, he was not just simply talking about his life that he'll raise up in 3 days. He was talking about that too. But he's saying, look, that building is anti what I'm trying to create. That system needs to be broken up, blown up, and gone. Because what I'm going to do is take the temple and put it inside of your heart. So early believers, if you said to somebody, hey, let's go to church, they would look at you crazy and say, what do you mean let's go to church? I am the church. That's why Paul says, your body is the temple of the Lord. I write my laws on the tablet stones of your heart. It was not in buildings. And Jesus was like, yo, get rid of this building. Jesus went into the temple and flipped over the tables because he's like, this thing is not right. And that's
how many years ago that was?
And that's why we're having struggles with trying to keep these things open. And COVID-19 is revealing that you don't need a building to be spiritual. You don't even
you
don't even need a building to learn.
I mean, but technically, if we went with what you just said, then we would all be we will no longer be spiritual because none of us are in the building, right?
Right. And that's what the problem with the building, because the building, once we get, and it's interesting, right? And subconsciously, this is how we do it, right? We think holiness begins inside the building. So we act differently when we walk inside the building.
Of course.
Like we matter of fact, there are people that take off their earrings, right? There are women and men that take off their earrings before they go inside the building because it's not holy. And as soon as they get out, they put it back on.
And that's so crazy to me. Like, I've always struggled with this internal struggle with that. And I think it goes back to what I was saying about that form of godliness point. But I definitely think, like, if you are wearing jewelry, right? If you're wearing jewelry and you cannot wear it inside the building, then like, what's the sense? Like, it doesn't make sense. And I know that people take it off because they don't want to have any issues with no one looking at them strange or, telling them anything or talking behind their back, and they just do it just to appease and just for the peace of it all. But it really doesn't make sense, right? That you are wearing something Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then for 2 hours you're taking it off because you have all of a sudden became holy for those 2 or 3 hours, and then as soon as you walk out, you become unholy.
Yeah, like God isn't omnipresent.
Right, God doesn't
He didn't see you with
right.
the jewelry
like,
on.
I know I just saw
in
you
your car.
for real. Like, you just had your jewelry on, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just crazy to me how that our system does not speak to come as you are.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if a lot of us came as we are, then I feel as though there would be so much more connection and so much humanity.
Yeah.
We would see each other truly for who we are,
Yeah,
and not this pretense of, oh, well, you kind of actually look really put together, not knowing that in your heart you're probably straight cussing.
Right. But the building does not allow you to do that.
But
right?
why? Like, why does the building? Why you know what? It's not the building; it's the people in the building. Because the building is just a structure, right? The building is just a structure. It's the people in the building that chastise, that talk behind your back, that gossip, that gives you
does. That's
these
what it's
police,
for.
These jewelry police.
Let me say right now, right? You know, there's something problematic with temples and churches because Jesus never went. And whenever he did go, they try to kill him, right? It is the same thing. You look at your Savior spent more time in the streets on the Sabbath than he did inside.
He was like, I ain't going in there.
So if you want to be like Christ, you need to be in the streets, right? And every time he went, they try to murk him, right? The same thing. Same thing with us.
Like, yo,
you go in there, you want to dress how you want to dress. Some people in that building will kill you.
Yeah, Andrew, what up, Andrew? He's saying they are avoiding the negative judgment from each other. That's a judgment that haunts the church in every aspect of the life. This is why the visitors will leave the church after a month. They treat the day like that.
Yeah, yo. And so here it goes back to that few weeks question, right? There is no freedom, right? Because here's the thing about man, if I'm an anthropologist, I'd love to study church because it's so interesting to me. We call each other brother and sister, and we do not act like brothers and sisters.
Because at the end of the day,
fight, right? But a brother or a sister, you're supposed to be able to be like, yo, how you doing, man? I'm not doing good. Or, yo, how you doing, man? I'm struggling with this sin.
Not even that. Let's not. That's deep. That's deep. Let's talk about the surface stuff. For a brother and sister, I have 3 brothers. If I walk inside of the house with earrings on, my brother's gonna be like, okay. And all right, cool. They may ask like, okay, Carlene, you done changed up on us a little, yeah. But at the end of the day, I truly feel as though they won't chastise me, they won't look down on me, they won't talk about me because they're just like, yo, that's my sister. At the end of the day, I care more about her heart than I do what it is that she's wearing.
Yeah, and here's like, yo, let me tell you, man, this was funny too. And then when I saw Arlene's statement, and I didn't get to read it, but I saw the word community. Here's what's funny about that. You remember New York, when we go witnessing in the community, how we used to go dress with our privileged self. We used to go in our suits and shirts and ties and go into some of the most hooded parts, which was right across the street from the church, all dressed up, trying to bring people to Jesus Christ.
Yo, that's so true.
He used to be in a shirt and tie.
Yo, that is so true. And you dare not. Oh my gosh, you dare not. You dare not put jeans on.
Yeah.
You're about to go into the community where you see people. It's Saturday. Everybody's out and about doing their thing. And here we are looking like Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
And what's crazy, what's crazy is we're dressing like Jehovah's Witness, and we already know the bad rep or how people feel about Jehovah's Witnesses, right? And we look just like them. As a matter of fact, I remember even in our, like when we would have those meetings talking about going into the community, and I remember having conversations and they were like, we should be like Jehovah's Witnesses. You see them? They're out there every day knocking on those doors and getting the gospel out. And I was just like, man, like that makes me feel terrible not knowing that that is a requirement for them.
Yeah, but the other thing too is like, where did dressing up come from? Dressing up started in the dress reform days, and nobody used to dress up for church when the thing started, right? And what happened was most people had two sets of clothes. They had one set of clothes that was for going out and one set of clothes that was for work. Mm-hmm. And you remember, like, and we even have that handed down to us, right? Like, we tell our kids, don't wear your going out clothes. You need house clothes, right?
Right.
Because it was like you had to separate and differentiate what outfits you had. The early church did not want people to dress up because then it would create class difference, right? Mm. So you would have wealthy people. Poor people only had one outfit, right? They only had one thing. And so you had rich people who had various outfits. And the early church was like, no, don't dress up because we don't want people to be separated by their clothes. Mm-hmm. We want everybody to be equal. Well, then dress reform became like this big thing. And I forgot the name of the preacher. He wasn't Adventist, but this was around the time when Ellen White was writing. These were like popular thoughts. And they started saying, cleanliness is next to godliness, and decorum and how you look. And so that's how that phenomenon came into the church of dressing up and, of this separate class system, which was still all Eurocentric because blacks, slaves back then only had one outfit. Mm-hmm. In the black church, like this idea of dressing up also came too because we only had one outfit. So that's why you see like when black people dress, we dress. Because when we get an opportunity to dress up, we gonna bring it. Like come with the crown, all of that.
Absolutely. Because it elevated, unapologetically.
Yeah, it elevated us personally, but not spiritually. Because you could be a dressed up clown, right? Or you could be dressed up and still act like a dressed up. Yeah, there's a lot of people dressed up clowns. Like that clown mentality. Okay, Donald Trump was a dressed up clown. He was a suit. He was in a suit, but he was a clown.
Right.
And so that's how that came into our ranks, and it has damaged us because now you got people saying, "Man, I can't go to church because I ain't got nothing to wear."
Right.
And then like the other thing too that we never talk about in our history is, we always talk about the Roman Catholic Church and them instituting Sunday worship. The other thing that they instituted that Constantine made was creating temples, because Jews had their temples, the pagans had their temples, but the early Christians, the followers of Christ, did not have a temple. Why? Because Jesus said destroy it. And they were nomadic and they would travel. They would set up in houses. For Constantine to bring his kingdom and people together was this: let's create temples where we can put them all inside, and let's fashion them after the basilica. Let's make them look like theaters. And then let's do that so that we can have people there. I know I'm paraphrasing stuff, but we have to really revisit and ask ourselves, are these buildings, is this institution serving people, or are we not serving people the best way possible? But yeah, we got to wrap it up.
Yeah, we do.
We love y'all.
This conversation, it's like fire. Like we're just ready to like
get on the horse.
Chris, we're like ready to go with it because we're just like, like we gotta change things up, right? We really have to change things up. And I know that this entire pandemic, although terrible, is definitely something that we really have to change.
Yeah,
we really gotta do better. But yeah, we've been on here, and of course, it's been great talking to you guys. Usually, we're on right now from 2, but um, we definitely have to go. But thank you guys so much once again for tuning in. We love and appreciate you all, and we hope and pray that you guys have a blessed week. And hopefully next week we'll be back. We're trying to be consistent with it. Hopefully next week we'll be back. But this is Carlene.
This is Jamie.
Peace.
Peace.